Welcome to another instalment of the BRSCC Mazda SuperCups. We're here at one of the drivers' favourite circuits, Anglesey. Now, with it being a coastal circuit, the weather has been a bit thoughtful this morning. It's been chucking it down with rain, but it is looking like the sun's breaking through those clouds. Now, we do have first blood going to Jack Harding, which I'm quickly going to catch up with. Jack, obviously, race one's about to get underway. You're leading, Luke's right behind you. How do you feel?
Yeah, we did really good qualifying. In the extreme wet, I think Luke's definitely got the edge, and it's very, very close up the front. But as the track was drying in qualifying, we definitely had the edge. I think we qualified over half a second on pole, so no, it was really good. So we'll just see what we can do in this race, really.
I've got to ask, what setup are you looking for today?
I have no idea, really. I mean, at the moment, the track's drying. It's just going to be one of those. It's whoever makes the right decision, whether to go full dry setup or half and half or even wet. But it's just going to be a gamble. Probably the person who wins it will be the person who chose the right setup. So we'll see how we get on, but we'll definitely try and win it.
Lovely. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Good luck in this race. Right, we're going to hand it straight on over to Andy to run you through the rest of this grid.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, this should be a fascinating race then for the MX-5 Super Cup, with the MX-5 Super Series on the same grid as well. The Super Cup element, headed by Jack Harding with Luke Herbert alongside. James Blake Baldwin makes a welcome return. He's third alongside Aidan Hills. Then Steve Roberts and Will Stacey ahead of Patrick Fletcher and Jack Sycamore. Then it's Nick Rutter and Gary Townsend, Nick Dunn and Paul Sheard, with David Henderson and Chris Richardson rounding out the Super Cup runners. Joe Marshall-Burks has James Kell alongside, by the way, on the front row of the Super Series element of the grid. Remember, those drivers do not score points. They're here just for a series of races. Simon Fleet and Darren Kell are next, ahead of Jeremy Crook and Declan Lee. Then Matt Pickford and Simon Orange. Clive Powell's has Natalie Brooks alongside, ahead of Xavier Brook and Russ Lindsay. Then Liz Walton, David O'Reilly and Chris Lindley round out the field. So, championship-wise in the Super Cup, Luke Herbert has an 8-point championship lead over Jack Harding coming into this race, but Harding has the pole position. This will be a fascinating race between the two of them. Lights out, away they go. Who gets into the first corner first? It's Luke Herbert with a brilliant start from the outside of row one, and Jack Harding goes nowhere. He's going to be swamped. On the inside goes Blake Baldwin, to the outside goes Aidan Hills, and James Blake Baldwin will come out of all of that in second position, with Luke Herbert, the race leader, already starting to scamper away. So not a great start for Harding. He's trying to fight back now around the outside at the banking. He will not get into second, but he will at least fend off Aidan Hills for third place. The whole field launches through the first couple of corners together, and the Super Series there at the back. As I said, they're not scoring points, but they're still out there racing, and it's great to have a full field of some 30-odd MX-5s out on track together again. So Harding third, Hills over the inside there for fourth position, trying to find a way through. And can he do it? He's got the outside line up towards the Rocket Complex. He's going to try and break as late as he can. Blake Baldwin snatches a break in front. Oh, there's contact with Jack Harding. Jack Harding is sideways off the road, goes Aidan Hills in avoidance. And that was absolute drama between two of the big championship rivals, Aidan Hills and Jack Harding. It was triggered by contact between Harding and, like I said, the locking up James Blake Baldwin. But it was Harding that seemed to come off worse. And Aidan Hills, unfortunately, had to take to the grass to avoid T-boning him. And that's all played beautifully now into the hands of Luke Herbert. The points leader is the race leader as well, and is starting to pull away. Well, what drama then. That really was not in the script at all for Harding and Hills. They've got some real work to do now. Hills, there you can see, is just in front of Jack Harding. They're both going up the inside of Jack Sycamore now, the 91 machine, into the hairpin. And that was the last thing either of those two drivers needed. They've got to try and take some points out of Luke Herbert this weekend to stop him extending this championship margin, and that's not the way to go about it. Now, Aidan Hills has got himself past Jack Sycamore. Jack Harding, though, not so lucky. He's on the outside line into the final corner and has not been able to go through. There goes Gary Townsend, and behind him, number 58 is Nick Dunn, who usually races in Super Series. Got himself a race victory, in fact, last time out at Cadwell Park in the Super Series, but this weekend is out in Super Cup, scoring championship points as well. So, to the banking they go. We're on board with Harding. By my reckoning, Jack Harding is in 7th position, with Aidan Hills a couple of positions ahead of him now in 5th. There he is, on the tail of Will Stacey. Will Stacey, who's had a bit of an up-and-down season, it's fair to say, but has been on the podium once this year, back at the season opener at Snetterton. There's Steve Roberts, who was in the wars last time out, but again was showing the pace that we know he has, albeit it ended in tears in race 2 with a non-finish, but he's been 4th 3 times this year, and he has had a podium came last time out at Alton Park, which was probably his strongest showing pace-wise, but didn't necessarily get the results to show for it. There is the state of James Blake Baldwin's door. That's what Jack Harding's car did to it when they made contact a lap ago at Rocket. That was a big hit, and Blake Baldwin was very lucky that hit was in the door, actually. Albeit the passenger door as well, so he was fortunate in that respect, but also lucky it wasn't anywhere near the wheels or suspension, because that could have put him out of the race altogether. On board with Aidan Hills then, still in 5th place, chasing down Will Stacey here. The Rob Boston Racing teammates nose to tail up the hill. Jack Harding still hasn't got past Jack Sycamore, by the way, and Aidan Hills is already sizing up his next move. Looks to the inside of the hairpin. We're on the full international layout this weekend at Anglesey, so we get to use the longest of the configurations here at the coastal circuit, and that means they run down that long straight into the hairpin, which is a good overtaking opportunity. So too is the final corner, and Jack Harding's going to try and use that to his advantage. Looks to the inside. In front of him, Aidan Hills, though, is going the other way. He's going around the outside of Will Stacey, and both of those methods work, actually. Hills goes into 4th, and Harding gets into 6th position. Sycamore is a bit slow off the corner, and Patrick Fletcher, who inherited pole position in race 3 at Alton Park last time out, only to finish 7th, unfortunately, but he is running right behind as well, trying to gain some ground. Fletcher, whose best finishes this year both came at Snetterton with a pair of 5th places, has just gained another spot there as Sycamore starts to fade. We heard Lindsay alluding to this, though, in the holding area before the race. It rained about an hour or so ago. It is not raining anymore, and the track is pretty dry now, but I wonder whether maybe when they were setting the cars up, when it was raining, whether a few teams went with a slightly wetter setup than they should have done, anticipating that the weather was going to stay damp. That certainly is not the case at the moment, but if it continues to dry out, we could see that become an issue for a few drivers. Certainly Will Stacey's car didn't look particularly happy under braking there. He's already lost that place to Aidan Hills. Jack Harding now trying to find a way through as well. Out of Rocket towards Peel, and Harding looks to the inside. That's a rare place to see an overtake executed, but Jack Harding is in a feisty mood today. He had that really good starting position on pole position. His race has unravelled already, and he needs now to try and salvage something out of this result. Remember, the drivers drop their 3 worst finishes of the season, and Jack Harding's drop scores, therefore, by that reckoning, are a pair of 3rd places and a 2nd place. So he's not been off the podium all year as Jack Harding, twice a winner. The same for Aidan Hills and Luke Herbert. They've all won a race apiece at each meeting, each of the 2 meetings we've had so far at Snetterton and Alton Park. So this will no doubt go down as one of Jack Harding's early season drop scores, but he could do without it, really. Behind him, Will Stacey was a bit scrappy off the hairpin, so Patrick Fletcher briefly moved alongside, but good to see Patch having a good run this weekend. As I said, inherited that pole position in race 3 at Alton Park, wasn't really able to make much of it. Here at Anglesey, though, he's running pretty strongly right from the off. On board with Jack Harding, the next man ahead of him then, there is Aidan Hills. Those two are separated by 6 points in the championship for 2nd place. Hills is 14 off the lead, and he's 6 points behind Jack Harding in 2nd position. That is before drop scores get taken into account, but we've only had 6 races so far, so don't worry about drop scores just yet. Will Stacey there, very sideways now. I reckon Will Stacey's gone with a wet setup on that car because it looks very soft, it looks a bit spongy in the rear, and it's sliding around a lot as a result. It's a bit too dry, I think, for the particular setup they've got on that car. Patrick Fletcher knows it too. He's trying to take advantage, looks to the inside of the Rocket. Stacey late enough on the brakes to fend him off for the time being, though. Stacey, who has a history of going well in damp races, got an only victory in that damp race at Silverstone last year, but it's not quite wet enough for his liking, or for his car's liking, I think, at this stage. Again, wide of the apex there. Will Stacey clearly struggling a bit here. And Patrick Fletcher, I think it's only a matter of time, probably, before he makes this move stick. The trouble is, though, that whilst the racing line is pretty much bone dry, if you go offline to make an overtake, it tends to be a bit damper. Oh, Stacey found a damp bit of road there, though, runs out onto the grass. Fletcher goes through, Sycamore goes through, and unfortunately, Will Stacey rather threw those 2 positions away there, but we could see it coming. The car wasn't happy, and I'm sure Will wasn't particularly happy with the way the car was handling either.
6, 7, 8, 9 now.
So, down towards the final turn they go. Sycamore now attacking Patrick Fletcher. As up the road, look, Steve Roberts was fighting James Blake Baldwin for 2nd position there. And we'll wait and see how that one turned out in a moment or two. Meanwhile, we focus still on Fletcher and Sycamore coming out of the final turn. Across the line they go. And that is quite a train of cars now building up, actually, with Will Stacey obviously 3rd in the queue now. And then somebody else catching them, which I think might possibly be Paul Sheard. Great to have Paul Sheard here back in the championship. Paul Sheard named synonymous with Mazda MX-5 racing, but it's been a while since Paul himself, the team patron, has been out there racing. Oh, Sycamore on the grass, turning into Church Corner. That was, well, it seemed to work for him as well. Had good grip through the corner, but that was a heart-stopping moment there. You do not want to wheel on the grass, especially when it's damp, turning into the fastest corner on the track. But he carries good speed off the turn nonetheless, and he's attacking Patrick Fletcher again now to the top of the hill. Brake lights come on pretty much simultaneously though. There's no way through there. They almost fan out 3 abreast as Will Stacey tries to buy back into all of this. The usual close quarters racing here in the midfield then. With such a big grid of cars now across both the Super Cup and the Super Series, there is plenty to watch here for the spectators trackside at Anglesey. So they're enjoying it, I'm sure they are. Look, you can see there's a lot of cars parked up at the side of the track. People enjoying racing here. Anglesey Circuit always does produce close racing. It's not always that easy to overtake here. Dry it is a little easier, you could say, but in the wet, mistakes like that Patrick Fletcher just made could sometimes open up the door for overtakes when you least expect them, and Jack Sycamore is going to try and pounce on this as soon as he can. Pulls to the outside, gets his nose in front. Fletcher goes very, very tight into the corner though. That was a bit of a block pass, but it might just work. Sycamore with the better exit. They're wheel to wheel, almost banging wing mirrors as they go down the straight towards the final corner, and Will Stacey's rubbing his hands with glee here, thinking that he could be about to regain those 2 places he's just lost. Meanwhile, for second place, it's nose to tail still between James Blake Baldwin and Steve Roberts. Jack Harding here has almost caught Aidan Hill, so he looks a bit closer to, he looks a bit quicker, sorry, than Aidan in this race. Out in front there, you can see off in the distance, Luke Herbert still with a reasonably comfortable lead, but I'm surprised in a way he's not pulled further away from James Blake Baldwin. We haven't seen James in the championship since Snetterton at the start of the year, which was a bit of an unmitigated disaster really for James. He was 7th in the first race before DNFing in race 2 and fought back to in fact, no, he didn't even start the last race at Snetterton, did James Blake Baldwin, because of the damage sustained in race 2. So he then missed the next round at Alton Park before rejoining us here at Anglesey. So technically speaking, the Alton Park rounds will become his dropped scores, but he already had 2 non-finishes essentially at Snetterton, so realistically his championship hopes are pretty much done before they started, which is a shame for the former champion James Blake Baldwin. Steve Roberts there, the man who's sort of been best of the rest so far this year in a way. We talk a lot about the big 3 in this championship, Herbert, Hills and Harding, 3 H's, but Steve Roberts has been quick. He's been as quick as them, certainly at Alton Park on occasion. Back in the Super Series, by the way, oops, that's Simon Orange losing a wing mirror, and Matt Pickford taking full advantage of the wayward moment to move through. These 2 fighting within the midfield element of the Super Series part of the grid, so they're not outright front runners. James Kell and Joe Marshall-Burks are the top 2 in Super Series at the moment, I can tell you. James Kell, who won the season opener at Brands Hatch before promptly throwing the car into the tyre wall in race 2 when he was leading. Joe Marshall-Burks, who was able to come through and win that race. In fact, they're the top 2 in the Super Series element of this race. Jack Harding now then with Aidan Hills. Now this is a significant battle. Remember, there are 6 points separating these 2 in Hills' favour. If he can finish in front here, he can further cut into that advantage. Right now, he would score 2 points more than Jack Harding. I think there was a moment up the road there for Steve Roberts. That's relinquished some of the pressure now from the that he was applying to James Blake Baldwin. As they head through Church Corner, looks as though Blake Baldwin, yeah, he's definitely broken the toe now, so can he now use that lack of pressure from behind to try and chase down the race leader? Meanwhile, Jack Harding is really applying the pressure. He couldn't get any closer to the back of Aidan Hills, but Aidan's always going to defend the inside line. Harding to the outside, he's late on the brakes. This is where it all went wrong for him on the opening lap, though. Well, it's where it went wrong for both of them, I suppose, on the opening lap, but this time they just about keep it clean, and Harding has gone through, and that was a significant move championship-wise. Both of these drivers could do with the points, but you also sense they can maybe do with working together here to try and close in on the top 3, but there's no sense of that just yet. They're very much racing each other, and Harding is into 4th position. Now, can Aidan Hills fight back? Feisty racer is Aidan, doesn't really back down from an argument, and likes to get stuck in, and look at that, forces the mistake instantly from Jack Harding, who gets on that damp patch that caught out Will Stacey and Patrick Fletcher earlier on in the race, and moves back, or drops back behind Aidan Hills, who's back into 4th place now. Aidan hunting for grip a bit there, I think, at the hairpin as well. It's an interesting battle this between the 2 of them. Locked in combat in virtually every race so far this year, but as I said, it's been really Harding's consistency that sees him 2nd in the championship. Both he and Luke Herbert have been very consistent. Neither of them have been off the podium all year so far. This would, at the moment, look like it's going to be the first occasion on which Harding's not on the podium. Again, that hands the championship advantage firmly to Luke Herbert. The flip side of that, though, is that Herbert will have to drop more points at this stage. Herbert's worst finishes, he had a third-place finish in race 3 at Alton Park, and then 3 second-place finishes, so he's dropping a third and 2 of those second places, whereas Harding potentially could drop a 4th or 5th place here, which is worth fewer points, of course, than podium finish. So the better you do, the more points you drop, but in theory, the bigger your advantage and the more points you can afford to lose. It's a quirky system, but it does keep things close right to the end. Speaking of close, Will Stacey and Jack Sycamore nose to tail, and then behind them, I think that's Joe Marshall-Burks, who is the lead Super Series runner, running well within the Super Cup element of the race now. There's no difference between the cars, they're all identical cars, built to the same set of regulations. It's just the Super Series running on a separate bill for most of the year, and indeed last year to the Super Cup. And so for those that wanted to race Mark III MX-5s but didn't want to race in a full-blown championship, the Super Series was there for them. It's been getting good grids, but definitely it's been nice to see the two of them grouped together again here for just the one time this year at Anglesey. It's nice to see that so many have made the trip out here as well. Marshall-Burks, I think, was having a go at Patrick Fletcher in the background. I wonder whether we'll see Marshall-Burks out in Super Cup next year. I hope we do in a way, because he's definitely race-winning, got race-winning potential. Jack Harding has won more of these races than anybody else now in MX-5 Super Cup history. He took that accolade last time out at Alton Park. Luke Herbert is not far behind him on the overall win tally, so it looks like maybe Herbert's going to get another race victory in this one, and we could see that start to swap over again as the season goes on. There is Patrick Fletcher with the 199 car, of Joe Marshall-Burks on the inside. Not able to get through though at the moment. And then it is the 18 of Paul Sheard behind them, the white and orange machine. There's Gary Townsend going through the yellow car. Back with Jack Harding. Now, are they catching Steve Roberts? I think they are. Steve Roberts is dropping back slightly maybe from the cars in front. There's a slower car there that they're negotiating through Church Court, so that car is a lap down. But the white car of Steve Roberts, I would say they're getting a bit closer to him at the moment, and that could be some more valuable points for Hills and Harding. While Patrick Fletcher still feeling pressure from Joe Marshall-Burks. Now, if this move is made, which it looks like it will be, it will not affect the points being scored by Fletcher. As far as the championship points are concerned for the Super Cup, you ignore the Super Series drivers, but Joe Marshall-Burks very much proving how quick he can be here, racing against some of the series regulars. He ran a bit deep there, though, having made the move stick on the inside at Rocket, outbraked himself, and then gets a bit itchy with the right foot coming out of Rocket, and almost loses the rear of the car. So in the end, 1 up, 1 down for Marshall-Burks, but he looks a bit quicker than Fletcher at this stage. And don't forget that the Super Series cars started behind the Super Cup cars as well. So despite the fact that Marshall-Burks clearly has sort of top 6 or 7 pace within the Super Cup cars, that is, he still had to start what was basically 17th on the grid. 15th on the grid, I should say, behind the 14 Super Cup runners. This, meanwhile, is the fight for the race lead. Now, all of a sudden, Luke Herbert has been caught by James Blake Baldwin. I don't know whether Luke's had a moment somewhere, or whether maybe he has gone for a slightly wetter setup, but it's certainly bone dry now, and he has got James Blake Baldwin breathing down his neck. James would love nothing more than to get himself a race victory here today on his return to the championship. That would go some way towards making up for the disaster at the start of the season, and he certainly looks a bit quicker than Herbert at this stage. Out of the banking they go. Blue and orange, familiar blue and orange colours of James Blake Baldwin, with the dented door not slowing him down one bit. He's in the tow now behind Luke Herbert, and could he be the man to maybe depose Luke from this race lead? He's really pulled a country mile ahead of Steve Roberts now in 3rd place. He seems to have faded in the last couple of laps. Traffic ahead of him as well. They haven't really had to deal with too much traffic of late because of the slightly smaller grids, but as I said, 2 classes together here, we've got nearly 30 cars on the grid, and the top 2 of them are separated by inches as they come through Rocket. James Blake Baldwin, as I said, former champion of this series, and then along came Luke Herbert. He's won the championship the last 2 times. He's the only driver to have ever won this championship twice, Luke Herbert, and he did it back-to-back in 2017 and 18. He's back again this year to try and make it the hat-trick. He's going the right way about it, and even if he were to lose the lead here, it wouldn't be the end of the world points-wise, but he still wants to take the victories if he can. Lap times continuing to improve as well. I think we'll likely see the last lap the fastest lap, sorry, set on the last lap of the race as the conditions continue to improve. Those 2 bonus points could prove valuable as well. Luke Herbert's been very good at racking up those bonus points this year for fastest lap. Number 10, by the way, number 19 that is Liz Walton about to go a lap down, as the leaders are coming through potentially now to the final lap of the race. Luke Herbert runs a bit wide at the final corner, and James Blake Baldwin is up the inside. He's going for the race lead. There's a back marker there as well. This is going to get very tight into the first corner, and I think Luke Herbert might just have done enough to fend him off. He gets a bit sideways though. Herbert on the grass, he's off the road. The championship leader loses the lead of the race, but did really well to regain control of the car, and that has handed it to James Blake Baldwin. James Blake Baldwin, on his return to the championship, has forced the error out of the master of the MX-5 SuperCup Championship in recent times, Luke Herbert, and he did well, as I said, to hang on to the car and hang on to second place. He'll be grateful now, particularly, of that cushion that they built up over Steve Roberts down in third. But James Blake Baldwin then has gone through in dramatic fashion to take the lead of the race in the closing stages. Fantastic stuff. And now he needs to just try and set sail and pull away to take what would be a very, very popular win, I think. Blake Baldwin last season was a championship contender until a disqualification at Castle Combe. Some contact he had with Steve Roberts put him out of the championship equation, really. You can't count a disqualification as a drop score, so that was it. One disqualification, you're out of the title race, and that was a shame because he'd been right up there with Luke Herbert and Jack Harding until that point. But this year, again, his championship hunt derailed, really, right from the word go, with that nightmare of a season opener at Snetterton. Missed Alton Park last time out, but he's back with a vengeance now at Anglesey, and he's leading the way, with Herbert possibly a bit rattled by that, falling into the clutches now of Steve Roberts. Aidan Hill seems to have shaken off the attentions of Jack Harding for the time being. But James Blake Baldwin, down to the final corner, is looking good now for his first victory, and the first person this year to win a race who is not called Luke Herbert, Jack Harding or Aidan Hills. Through they go, on to the final lap of the race, and Luke Herbert, look, has just set the new fastest lap, 1:44.927. That is worth 2 championship points. Now that's crucial, because even if he finishes second place, the second place you score 98 points. For a win, you score 100. But if you finish second with the fastest lap, you score the same amount of points as if you won the race, so it's 100 points essentially. Obviously, if he'd have won with fastest lap, that's worth 102, but still, Luke Herbert has done this quite a few times this year. He finished second with the fastest lap on 1, 2, 3 occasions this year. So if you can't win, at least try and finish second with the fastest lap. That seems to be the philosophy, and that means that Luke Herbert has arrived here with 596 points. Well, if he'd have won all 6 races and not set a fastest lap, he would have only scored 4 more points than that. So Herbert has been the master of consistency, but he's also very good at banging in these quick laps, and that's exactly what he's done again here today on the Anglesey International circuit. It's not going to be enough, though, I don't think, for him to find a way back onto the tail of Blake Baldwin, or is it? He is closing in on this final lap. He's really pushing on. Blake Baldwin do this? Can he hang on to the race victory? Steve Roberts is on for another podium as well here. That's a good result for him, potentially. Steve Roberts, that would only be his second podium finish of the year as well, but it would repeat the 3rd place from race 1 at Alton Park last time. Continuing to close in here, but I think it's too little too late. They're going down towards the final corner now of the final lap, and it looks as though the first race of the weekend here at Anglesey, round number 7 of the 2019 Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, will be won by the returning James Blake Baldwin. A fantastic drive for James, and I think he's quite happy with that. Luke Herbert comes home second, and is only 0.3 of a second back at the flag, with Steve Roberts in 3rd position, taking some decent championship points as well. Brilliant race that was then, and James Blake Baldwin with the race victory. As I said, it might be too little for him to get into championship contention now, but he'll take the silverware nonetheless. Second place for Herbert, 3rd is Roberts. Aidan Hills 4th gets the better of Jack Harding, but they both lose points to their big rival. Will Stacey, Jack Sycamore, Patrick Fletcher, Paul Sheard and Gary Townsend round out the top 10, ahead of Nick Rutter, David Henderson and Chris Richardson, whilst Nick Dunn is a non-finisher. In the Super Series, by the way, it was James Kell who took home the race victory, with Joe Marshall-Burks 3.7 seconds back. Clyde Powell's was 3rd. Simon Fleet and Darren Kell round out the top 5, ahead of Xavier Brook, Declan Lee, Jeremy Crook, Simon Orange and Matt Pickford. Then Russ Lindsay, Natalie Brooks, David O'Reilly, whilst Liz Walton and Chris Lindley were a lap down at the flag.
James, huge congratulations. That looked quite tough out there considering the Super Series is now mixed with the Super Cup on this grid. So how did you find it?
It was interesting. We knew we'd catch some of the back markers of the Super Cup, so we had to make our way through there. Joe did an excellent job of getting through. I got held up for a few laps, so he got further up the road than I did. And to be honest, I thought I was just safe and clear in second, and then Joe had a little spin at turn 1 because there's oil down. And that's when I took back first, and I was quite surprised, to be honest. So yeah, not too bad. But
So good race all round.
yeah, it was Joe's to win. I shouldn't have really won it, but I mean the car hasn't been there this weekend. We're trying to resolve issues from Pembury and stuff like that. So happy with first, but really, realistically, we should have come second. So yeah.
True gentleman driver after all, James. Well, we wish you the best of luck and we can't wait to see you in the next one.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Cheers.
Joe, so the top set was just in grasp then. Talk me through what happened with that spin.
Well, I thought I looked under control. We had a pretty good start. Me and James got away, and then I got away from James. So I was like, well, I'll stay here now because they're Super Cups. It was different grids, isn't it? And then just come out the turn 1, a bit of oil comes down, spun around, and the next minute it was like second. It was annoying to be honest, but got an next race starting second, so hopefully we get ourselves up the grid.
So how did you find it out there with a lot more cars on the grid?
I think it's a lot better for like people who are watching, to be fair, as well, because there's more cars and more action going on. I'm sure everyone liked me spinning around as well. But yeah, it should be good for everyone.
Clive, that was great result for you, but how did you find it with that many cars on the grid?
It was pretty much the same as it was previously. It's just that I was just trying to get through all the Super Series cars and get as far forward as I could, really. So I had a pretty good start, and by I think turn 3, I was up another 2-3 cars and just carried it on from there.
You did look like you were having fun out there, I must admit.
It was brilliant. For an old geezer, it was brilliant.
So any plans going into the next round?
Yeah, just stick with them youngsters.
Well, a huge congratulations from us, Clive, and we can't wait to see you in the next one.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I love that. I think that's my favourite.